Hello everyone, today we will be taking a look at an Iceberg on Plastic Tree, one of the most popular visual kei bands as of now. Plastic Tree have been active since 1993, the band is currently comprised of vocalist and guitarist Ryotaro, bassist Tadashi, guitarist Akira and drummer Kenken. This Iceberg was made entirely by me, so I hope that you will find my selection of topics interesting. As usual, you can find most of the sources I use in the description of this video. There are about 50 entries in this Iceberg, and by the way, I got a new microphone, and it's plugged into my PC through an audio interface. I hope I don't mess up the settings, it should sound pretty good, definitely better than what I had before, so please let me know what you think of this new microphone. Without further ado, thank you to my patrons, Mumble Honey, Remilia, Big Body Igor, Canary Casey, The Insomniac Slayer, Dali, Lemon Piglet and Soup, and let's get into the video. The band Plastic Tree was founded in December 1993 by vocalist Ryotaro and bassist Tadashi. Before that, the two performed in different bands around the city of Chiba. In a 2006 interview for Jam Award, Ryotaro is quoted saying, "Tadashi was in a band and I wandered from band to band and also did solo work, working part-time jobs in live houses and searching for a person who would make songs that I wanted to sing. But it was hard to find such a person who I wanted to play together with, and finally I met Tadashi. I was shocked by the music of his former band. It was so marvelous. Then I asked, who made this song? And he answered, I made it. I talked to him personally and found we had a lot in common with favorite music and movies, and then I thought, I want to play with him. Akira, with whom Ryotaro performed in a band together before, joined Plastic Tree in March 1994. When Plastic Tree formed in December 1993, they initially chose NTT Fax as their name. Just a few months later, in May 1994, they changed their name to Plastic Tree. A popular misconception is that this name came from a title of a Radiohead song, Fake Plastic Trees. This is not true. The Radiohead song came out in May 1995, so a year after Plastic Tree started going by that name. Ryotaro explained the origin of their name in the aforementioned interview with Jam Award. When we had to name our band, Tadashi and I experimented with words. We said, let's put two words together, and why don't we make a combination of something artificial and something natural, and said a variety of things like steel and stone, river, etc. Finally we said plastic and tree. Then we said, it's good, and then it was decided. In those days there were many incomprehensible words in the music scene. We didn't want an important meaning in a band's name, and deciding that it's better everyone can read our name easily, we made the band name from plain words of artificial and natural things. Fans refer to Plastic Tree as Pura or Pura Tree for short. There is no one specific genre of music that Plastic Tree's whole body of work could be categorized as. Their discography is very diverse. They are generally classified as alternative rock. They started off as a kinda grunge band. Over time their music became less heavy. A lot of people say that they are a shoegaze band, and they are also often called dream pop. According to Tadashi, they don't consider themselves as representatives of any specific genre of music. Quote, "We don't have a concrete genre. If there are signals that strike chords in us, then we want to express that through our music." Over the years, their image has also changed. They evolved from a colorful, soft visual kei look to a more darker one. Plastic Tree are heavily influenced by rock bands from the United Kingdom. Ryotaro listed The Cure, Radiohead, The Smiths and Bauhaus as some of his favorite bands. The first The Cure album he listened to was Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. According to Tadashi and Ryotaro, The Cure had probably the strongest influence on music and the image of Plastic Tree. Akira was inspired to start playing guitar after he started listening to the Japanese heavy metal band Loudness. He also likes Ozzy Osbourne. As of 2026, Plastic Tree's discography is comprised of 16 albums. Out of these 16 albums, only a few were available on streaming services for a long time. Thankfully, the band appears to be actively working on distributing their old music online. More of their albums were released on streaming services in 2025. Some releases are still missing, but I think most of their most important stuff is already available. All members have music projects active alongside Plastic Tree. Since September 2016, Ryotaro has a solo project under his name. Akira also has a solo project under his name, which he started in 2020. Kenken is active solo under the name Depiction Method. And lastly, not a solo project, but Tadashi is a member of the band Bulb. Several Plastic Tree songs have been used as anime endings. Sync was used in the Kindaichi Case Files, Namida Drop was used in Glass Fleet, and Mirai Iro was used in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Furthermore, Silent Noise was used in the visual novel Color X Malice. Some fans consider Plastic Tree to be representatives of Mishitsuke, a subgenre of visual kei that is characterized by its outsiderness when compared with other visual kei bands, both music-wise and looks-wise. According to VKG, Plastic Tree's place within Mishitsuke is not really clear, as, quote, they went major in 1997 and may have been too early to be heavily associated with the subgenre. And there is a debate among the fans whether or not Plastic Tree can be classified as Mishitsuke. Also, according to VKG's list of non-subgenres, Japanese fandom groups Plastic Tree together with Shazna, Malice Miser and Diren Grey under the label of Super Visual, despite all these bands being very different from one another. Bloom Psychedelic Dream, or BPD for short, is a WordPress blog that acts as a kind of an English language archive for things Plastic Tree related. It began as a Tumblr blog dedicated to translating Plastic Tree songs to English. It was started in 2011 by Bloom, who has been a Plastic Tree fan since 2007. In 2018, BPD was moved to a WordPress blog. Since 2002, members of Plastic Tree have been going by their full names: Ryotaro Arimura, Akira Nakayama, Tadashi Hasegawa, and Kentaro Sato. A few Plastic Tree songs are directly inspired by songs of other bands. They are generally referred to as covers, but they are more like adaptations, I would say, because they change the lyrics and the instrumentals are also different. Best known example, on Plastic Tree's album Strange Fruits, there is a song Rira Noki. It is a cover of Radiohead's My Iron Lung. Other Plastic Tree songs inspired by other artists are Andrometamorphose, similar to Comforting Sounds by Mew. Fujunbutsu sounds a lot like Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. Inori is a cover of Turn 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 by The Birds. And Tsumetai Hikari is similar to Tonight Tonight by The Smashing Pumpkins. In the comments of these songs on YouTube, you can find some people accusing Plastic Tree of plagiarizing these songs. But this is definitely not plagiarism, as noticed by Bloom Psychedelic Dream. Those songs are incredibly similar, but even so, they aren't exactly alike, so plagiarize can't be used. Highly inspired, I believe. Andrometamorphose is slightly faster and repeats the first couple of chords throughout the whole song, while Comforting Sounds is a bit more varied. And everything about the lyrics is different: words, melody, length, pattern, etc. Plastic Tree also covered Ryusei by Mac, although this time this is a direct cover of the song. It was released on a tribute album to Mac. Speaking of tribute albums, Plastic Tree has a tribute album on their own. Released in September 2017, it is titled Plastic Tree Tribute Transparent Branches. That's a lot of T's right next to each other. And it includes covers of Plastic Tree songs recorded by 12 different artists: Pelican Fan Club, Kishidan Kiyoharu, People in the Box, Aikawa Nanase, Ogata Megumi, A Crowd of Rebellion, Good on the Real, Mac, IMC, Arshite, and The Novembers. A lot of Plastic Tree lyrics have a hint of what I like to call melancholic loneliness. That's the only name I can think of for this mood. It's kinda hard to describe. I don't know, compare Plastic Tree's Kuchizuke, for example, and Malice Miser's Au Revoir. These are two very different songs, but they have the same lonely energy, both musically and lyrically, I think. I don't know if what I'm saying makes any sense to you. Anyway, Ryotaro appears to be quite a lonely person. He did a whole interview with the Vicious magazine in 1998 about how lonely he is. Translated by Bloom Psychedelic Dream. I changed schools when I was a kid, so I didn't have friends. I spoke with a different dialect, so instead I ended up being bullied and stuff. It made me a little distrustful of people, and I thought, it's better to be alone than to make friends. Asked if he felt alone in the classroom. No. I liked animals, so I was in charge of the pets, and I would go to the animal pens to look after the rabbit. I would get to school early to feed it, I would go during recess and even after school too. He was an introverted boy without friends, quote, all the way through middle school, but when I got to high school I thought, this can't go on, and I tried to make friends. Ordinarily I was successful, but then something petty happened once, and even though I wasn't entirely at fault, I was blamed for it, and I felt like I was left out by my classmates, so I started to distrust people again. He did eventually find a good friend who wanted to start a band with him. I don't think this is about Tadashi, I think it's one of Ryotaro's previous bandmates. He really had an influence on me. I would often go to hang out, I would go after work and we would be like, let's go on a trip. And we would take a car to Hakone, and then in the mountains the car broke down and there weren't any payphones nearby, so we spent the night in the car. It was wonderful. Thankfully he does have more friends now. As of 1998 he kept asking Tomo Furukawa of Ganyu Tools to go to Disneyland with him. And he wants to be friends with the guys from Radiohead, although he acknowledges that it is unlikely to happen. He also stated that he had a very small number of romantic relationships. Tadashi is the leader of the band. He was also their primary composer in the first years of their activity. Plastic Tree has had a few lineup changes, all of them concerned drummers. Their first official drummer was Koji, although at some point instead of Koji, someone by the name of Obama played the drums for... Did I say Obama? Someone by the name of Ohama. Not... Someone by the name of Obama. Oh, no, I can't read this now. Someone by the name of Ohama played drums for them for about a year. In October 1994, Koji was replaced by Shin, who in 1996 was replaced by Takashi, who left in 2001. In 2002, Hiroshi Sasabuchi, also known as Buchi, joined as a drummer, and finally, in 2009, he was replaced by Sato Kenken, who as of right now remains a member of the band. Plastic Tree held 3 world tours. In 2006 they performed in Finland, France and Germany. A year later, in 2007, they performed in the Netherlands, France, Germany, Sweden and Taiwan. And finally, in 2008, they played in Germany, Poland, Greece, France and the United Kingdom. Plastic Tree is supposed to be a band based around the theme of circus performances and stuff like that. They kinda dropped this theme after the album Puppet Show, but they revisited it later on in their career. In the Drum Award interview, Tadashi says, "When I used to talk with Ryotaro, we found that what we wanted to do was a lot like a circus or an old theater, lots of attractions all in one." Ryotaro says, "Circuses, playhouses and shows in traditional Japanese festivals clearly remain in my mind from when I was a child. When I write lyrics, I go to those memories sometimes, and when I bring them to our band, they work well." Since making the album Puppet Show, we didn't show the elements of a circus so much. We deliberately did that, and after we did various things, we returned to our origins. If you've been keeping up with the Visual Kei community in the last few months, you're probably aware of the Malice Miser fake Spotify profile situation. Well, Plastic Tree also had a problem with this. But it's a bit different because Plastic Tree already had an official Spotify back then. In 2025, someone by the name of Rockstar took Plastic Tree's Kuchu Buranko and distributed it on streaming services as their own song. The song was pretty popular on TikTok back then, and it was not available yet on streaming services owned by Plastic Tree's official profile. And the worst thing is, at some point Rockstar had more monthly listeners than Plastic Tree, and their upload of Kuchuburanko had more streams than Plastic Tree's most popular songs at the time. I don't know how this was calculated, but according to one estimate on Reddit, this impersonator could have made more than £10,000 from that one song. A funny detail is that while distributing the song, Rockstar apparently credited Visual K Fan as its composer and lyricist. Thankfully, their upload of Kuchuburanko was taken down, and the song is now officially distributed on streaming services by Plastic Tree themselves. But as I was working on this video, I found one more person profiting off of Kuchuburanko, Plastic Tree Fan on Spotify. Over 5.5 million streams as of now. A lot of people see a resemblance between Ryotaro and L from the anime Death Note, and well, he actually did cosplay L at some point. Here are the photos from his cosplay. He also cosplayed Billy the Puppet from the Saw franchise. Before Plastic Tree, Ryotaro and Akira were both active in bands Religion Mix and Drop-In Shoplifters. Not much is known about these bands, just that they were active in Chiba in the early 1990s. We know more about Camouflage, the band that Tadashi was in. They were active between 1990 and 1996, and according to Tadashi, they were influenced by early Visual Kei bands like Backtick and Zekel. Plastic Tree did a few short films that were released on Nico Nico Doga. That's kinda like a Japanese version of YouTube. They were also released on a DVD in 2011. Their titles translate to Saturday Lizard Feeder, Underground Phantom, The Beauty of the Lemon Mansion, The Golden Man, The Beauty in the Visual Box, and Onan the Lizard, The Beautiful Woman Who Devours the Pretty Boy. But it appears that the English fandom decided to call these films Plastic Tree Movie of Awesomeness. And that's a pretty adequate name. You can find these films on YouTube, each of them is a little over 10 minutes long. I found one upload with English subtitles, and I don't know what to say. I mean, the films are great, they're absolute cinema.
黄金男待て。もう黄金銃は弾切れのようだな。待て。
Neko Jirushi is Plastic Tree's official mascot character. Ryotaro came up with its design. It is a tall black cat whose face is covered in bandages. Neko Jirushi had his own blog on Amiibo. It is now defunct, but you can access it via the Wayback Machine. You can also find translations of his posts on the Neko Jirushi Live Journal blog. He also had a Twitter, which has been inactive since 2011. In 2010, Neko Jirushi appeared publicly in Japan's 6 major cities, Sapporo, Sendai, Osaka, Nagoya, Fukuoka and Tokyo, to, if the translation is correct, quote, hand out echo bags printed with keywords to passerby. Collecting all 6 keywords from the echo bags will supposedly reveal something. I do not know what that ominous something was. In 2011, on February 22nd, which is Japan's National Cat Day, an official photobook of Neko Jirushi was revealed. Neko Jirushi to Yobo Arete Imasu. It contains photos of Neko Jirushi's daily life and pictures from his travels, and of course you can find various types of merchandise featuring Neko Jirushi. In 1998, Ryotaro started writing a series of short columns for the Zappi magazine. These columns were sort of a public diary of Ryotaro. The first Ryotaro diary series was titled Inuhebi Eniki, meaning Dog Snake Picture Diary. It was followed by Aomushi Drop, which means Cabbage Worm Drop. You can find translations of both series on the Bloom Psychedelic Dream WordPress blog. The diary was also illustrated by Ryotaro. Here are some fragments that I found interesting. Since I had woken up earlier than planned, I played with my dog with a water gun. Despite enjoying it at first, he bit me when I aimed the water at his head. He pierced my finger and it bled and hurt. Snapping just at water aimed at him is a little extreme. My radishes sprouted. I put a sponge in a mug, then planted some seeds to see if I could grow them in my house 4 days ago, and when I went to water them, they had sprouted. When they sprouted, they looked so cute and happy even though I had completely forgotten about them. If everything goes well, I might be able to harvest them in about a week. I'm excited to see what kind of radishes they will become. I'll make sure that the dog can't eat them. I'm not taking my eyes off them. He didn't eat the radishes, by the way. I mean, neither the dog nor Ryotaro. Ryotaro gave them away to other people. Mandarin oranges are delicious in winter. I ended up eating 8 of them today alone. I felt like my body would somehow turn orange colored. It was my day off, so I played a game. I haven't played a game in a long time, but I got to play one called Resident Evil at Akira's house. I thought it was interesting, so I bought a PlayStation and Resident Evil. I played from dusk until nighttime all by myself, but in my fright I jumped 3 times and screamed 5 times. When I finished, it showed up in my dreams. That was too thrilling for someone whose history with TV games stopped with Super Mario. Today was my birthday. I was in the studio recording the whole time. When I went back to the lodge for dinner time, everyone had set up a birthday party. Having cooked the meal, Yasu became my mom for the day. A mom with a beard. And then the producer played Happy Birthday on the harmonica and everyone sang to me. It was just a bunch of men though, so their voices were low and it sounded weird. I was really happy though, it was my first party like this. When I went to Chiba station today, a foreigner started to talk to me. He just talked, I think it was English. But I was at a loss as to what he was saying because I couldn't really understand. I heard Shinjuku come up a couple of times, so it seemed like he wanted to get to Shinjuku. I wanted to tell him, but I couldn't really speak well, so without any other option, I led him to the platform. Then he hugged me out of the light and cried thank you. Another column series written by Ryotaro was Gojun Shinki for the Kera magazine. You can find it on the Bloom Psychedelic Tumblr blog. In 2007, the series was compiled into a book. In 2013, Plastic Tree had their own TV show titled Plastic Tree no Senpura, aired on Chiba's local television. It was described as a, quote, new kind of hybrid entertainment program that combines Chiba TV's popular music program with plenty of members-planned segments, including travel, cooking, and historical site exploration. A second season of the show aired a year later in 2014. If I understand correctly, footage from Plastic Tree no Senpura was later released on DVD. You can find some clips from it on YouTube. I found a few mentions of Ryotaro speaking foreign languages during Plastic Tree lives outside Japan, and I found this very cute. For example, from Jam Awards 2006 live report from Helsinki, Finland, Ryotaro spoke some Finnish to us. One time he was saying that he had a nice time here. His pronunciation wasn't perfect, but his accent was charming and everyone appreciated the fact that he was actually attempting to speak our own language back to us. At the end, Ryotaro told us, "See you again" in Finnish. And now a report from Paris, France. At some point, Ryotaro took a note out of his pocket and then he started to say some words in French. It was very cute and endearing to see him do his best to speak French. He did a very good job, his French was understandable. Bonsoir, good evening, je suis Ryotaro, I am Ryotaro, and merci beaucoup, because he forgot the end of the word beaucoup. I'm sorry, I don't speak French. Thank you very much. Each time the crowd awarded his efforts with loud yelling and applauding. Peep Plastic Partition was a series of live-streamed performances that Plastic Tree did during the COVID pandemic. There were 10 live streams in total, and they were later released on a Blu-ray. In the interview with Jam Award, Ryotaro stated that he enjoys walking around towns alone. He then mentioned an incident in which he got a little lost while in Kyoto. I like Kyoto very much, and I was going sightseeing alone and lost my way. I wasn't really lost, but I mistook the place where I took a taxi to go to a lifehouse. And then he remembers an incident where members of Plastic Tree got completely lost while in Sapporo, as told by Ryotaro and Tadashi. It was our first trip to Sapporo, and we couldn't see forward because of the blizzard. As you know, if snow is falling heavily, we lose direction. We walked as usual, but couldn't see forward at all, where we came from and where we were going to. It was the same scenery wherever we looked. The snow was falling heavily, so we were saying, no way, we can't go home. We hadn't just lost our way, but we ended up completely lost. Imagine if we were in the mountains. I don't have a good sense of direction. Honestly speaking, I lose my way often. I often ask people for directions. There aren't so many bad people in the world and they help me. Akira has a lot of tattoos on his body. Plastic Tree went through several record label changes through the years. According to VKG, they first signed with Entrance, a sub-label of Warner Music Japan, and together with Entrance, Plastic Tree had their major debut in 1997. Later that year, they moved directly to Warner Music Japan. They became an independent act again in 2001 when their contract with Warner Music Japan ended. Since then, they were supported by Sweet Star Records, a label owned by their management agency, Sweetheart. In 2003, Sweetheart signed a distribution deal with Nippon Crown. That same year, Plastic Tree signed a deal with Universal Music Group, which opened a subsidiary, Sick Room Records, established specifically to manage Plastic Tree releases. In 2005, the band's management moved to a company called J-Rock, and their contract with Sick Room Records was suspended. A year later, the band signed a deal with Universal J. But in 2008, J-Rock opened its Visual Kei exclusive sub-label Akatsuki label. In 2012, Plastic Tree joined Flight Star Records, a sub-label of Victor Entertainment. Then in 2014, they moved to CJ Victor Entertainment. But 3 years later, they returned to Victor Entertainment. This astonishing number of record label changes is probably the reason why Plastic Tree has so many best-of albums. They had to release their old songs again so that they could be distributed by their new labels. And also, this is probably the reason why it's so hard for them to get their whole discography out on streaming services. Ryotaro was inspired to write the lyrics of Honto no Uso after a visit to an amusement park with Tadashi and Akira. Quote as translated by Bloom Psychedelic Dream: "It was actually fun. I went with Akira and we would challenge each other to do rides like Tower Hacker, but before long I reached my heart's limit and felt like I couldn't breathe, so I thought, I can't do this anymore, and ran away from the two of them. I ended up going around at my own pace and riding things by myself." Akira says, "You were like, I feel bad, and ran away." Ryotaro responds, "But even though I was glad to get away, I was suddenly overcome with intense loneliness." The interviewer asks about the reason for this loneliness. Tadashi responds, "Probably because he was surrounded only by couples." Ryotaro says, "I was on two-person rides after all, so if they weren't couples then they were pairs of friends, and I was flying all by myself." and then everyone started laughing. The amusement park the three of us went to had been merged with the zoo that was in woods nearby, and when it got dark, the Ferris wheel in the part of the park looked like it was standing out above the woods. It's always made me feel bad when I look at it, so that's the image I put into these lyrics. Zero was a song Plastic Tree released in 2007 as a thank you to their fans for supporting them for 10 years as a major band. According to VKG, the CD with the single was distributed exclusively at Plastic Tree's Nippon Budokan Live event of that year. In 2009, Plastic Tree were guests at the Animagic anime convention in Germany. They had a press conference there and they were interviewed by Jam Award. According to an additional note in one of the Aomushi Drops entries, Ryotaro is fond of pajamas. At least he was as of 1999. Jellyfish Breed is the name of Plastic Tree's official fan club. The origins of this name are pretty simple. Ryotaro likes jellyfish. The band's fans call themselves Kurage, which means jellyfish in Japanese. It was established all the way back in July 1996, so before the band's major debut. Later the fan club was disbanded and then a new one was founded under the name Sick Room, but the name was changed back to Jellyfish Breed when the band switched record labels. Members of the fan club have priority in buying tickets for Plastic Tree concerts, and the band sometimes holds some fan club events. PT Fans 1993 is another Plastic Tree fan site. It is run by Aina, a fan of Plastic Tree since 2007. You can find updates on Plastic Tree's activities there in both English and Japanese. You can also find some interesting data on the band like pie charts of numbers of songs by lyricists and composers. It's pretty interesting. Ryotaro has a hard time falling asleep. Quote from a 1999 interview translated by Bloom Psychedelic Dream: "I have insomnia, so I have trouble falling asleep. Because I have to get up early the next day and I can't go to bed early, I'm not good at making the sleeping switch. I've been doing a lot of deep thinking about it lately, and since it's gotten so bad, I recently got some medicine from the doctor that should help me sleep. As told by user Silver Cardinal on Reddit, when Ryotaro, Akira and Tadashi met for the first time, they had a pretty bad impression of each other. Quote, "Ryotaro and Akira met first when Ryotaro was applying for bands. He met up with Akira's band, and when they were hanging out, him and Akira started fighting that needed to be mediated to by the other band members. Afterwards, Ryotaro moved in and lived with Akira. Tadashi met both Ryotaro and Akira because his bandmate was brothers with a bandmate of Ryotaro and Akira's band, so they knew each other in passing since both bands hung out at the same places. In an interview for the Rock and Read magazine in 2014, Ryotaro told the story of how him and Akira met Tadashi. A translation of this part of the interview can be found on the Shinryu Reviews blog. Quote, "Up until then, I hadn't met Tadashi-kun. The vocalist and drummer from Aniki's band would constantly visit. The vocalist has known Aniki for a very long time. Tadashi hadn't yet come by to our room. One day, while being absolutely wasted, he abruptly stopped for a visit. It looked like he came back from an after show parties where bandmen drink up and unwind. As soon as he opened the door, there was a great tension in the air, and he was totally and completely dead drunk. He ended up collapsing right on the floor, and Akira and I had to drag him to a bed. When he woke up the next day, he looked so sorry." In contrast to this, the members had an instantly very good impression of their current drummer, Kenken. Quote from Silver Cardinal, "When he was auditioning for Pura, he was one of the last people to audition, and so Akira, Ryotaro and Tadashi were a bit tired by that point, but they were super engaged with when they started playing with Kenken. They even described it as Kenken may not have been the most technically skilled, nor the most knowledgeable musically, but he was the one they connected with." On the internet you can find people mentioning that Plastic Tree's Ammonite album, released in 2011, has a very depressing backstory related to Ryotaro's father. Total Psycho of the J-Rock 1 forum provided more details on this. Around the time the album was in production, Ryotaro was grieving the unexpected passing of his father. He dedicated the song Bambi in his memory, as it was the kind of song his dad would enjoy. A few months later, Ryotaro contracted Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a debilitating, rapid-onset autoimmune disease that leads to whole-body paralysis. He was stuck in the hospital for months, which halted and influenced the later production of the album. The lyrics of Sabin Shibo changed to reflect the feelings of being isolated in a foreign place, and one of the instrumental tracks in the album is just the sound of a heart rate monitor slowly beeping. Ryotaro said in an interview that this was the hardest time of his life. It was mentally traumatic and impacted his will to live for a while. In 2023, Akira participated in NHK Kohaku Utagasen annual New Year's Eve special of the Japanese public television station NHK. He accompanied Yoshiki during his special performance of ex-Japan songs. Gadget Grow was a fashion brand that Ryotaro used to model for. Chiba Gumi, meaning Chiba Group, is how fans refer to Tadashi and Ryotaro, as they are both from Chiba. Although, unlike Tadashi, Ryotaro was not born in Chiba. He was raised there, but he was born in Fukuoka. In 2007, the Shockwave magazine published interviews with each member of Plastic Tree in which each of them was asked 100 questions. These interviews were translated by Bloom Psychedelic Dream. They go into details like each member's favorite food, just trivial stuff like that. My favorite moment is when Ryotaro gets asked a series of questions about his taste in women, and every time his reply is, "It varies." Also, ideal male image. I don't care. Good thing about being born a man. I don't know. If you could change what you were born, would you be a boy or a girl? No, I'm okay. Why? Because I'm okay. Future aspirations? I'll think about that before I go to sleep tonight. And from Akira, when was your first love? I wanted to be plus-end directed. Was that love fruitful? I wanted to be answered in the plus-end direction. Favorite type of the opposite sex? I want to think about it in the plus-end direction. Least favorite type of the opposite sex? Please discuss it in the plus-end direction. What does that even mean? A name you would give your child, Randy Rhoads. If you don't know who that is, Randy Rhoads was a guitarist for Ozzy Osbourne. And from Bucci, their drummer at the time. When was your first love? Maybe kindergarten. Was that love fruitful? I feel like that wasn't okay with my parents. In 2001, Ryotaro underwent surgery to have a polyp removed from his throat. Yeah, that's all I have to say about this. I found 2 different websites mentioning this as a fun fact, so I decided to include it here. Ryotaro has been credited with coining the term OGK. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. It is a name for a, quote, boy version of Victorian Lolita clothing. The style is also known as Kodona-kei. However, there used to be some debate within the English-speaking community regarding if Kodona and OG are 2 separate things. In 2017, the Batcave blog investigated this. According to them, quote, though the term Kodona is widely used in the online international communities, Kodona is not the proper term for the style. The term Kodona had previously been sourced from a Gothic and Lolita Bible interview with Plastic Tree's vocalist Ryotaro to describe his personal style. However, this is incorrect. I asked several fluent Japanese readers to read the interview, and according to them the word Kodona does not even appear in the spread. Nobody really knows why the international community latched onto the word Kodona. Panpu was another Plastic Tree mascot. He was made in 2012 in celebration of the 15th anniversary of the band's major debut. Like Nekojirushi, Panpu also had a Twitter account. I wasn't able to find any detailed information on this character. It might be locked behind a language barrier. I did find a news article saying that a limited edition of Plastic Tree's 15th anniversary DVD includes an animated video showing Panpu getting married, but I had no luck in trying to track down the video in question. From 2001 until 2004, a website known as Plastic Tree Channel was active. According to Tentomoshi at the PL4J live journal blog, I don't know how to say that name actually, the website was, quote, only viewable to subscriber members via a mobile phone. It cost 300 yen plus tax per month. The site was updated every Friday. Among other things, the members took turns writing short columns on various subjects chosen from among the suggested by readers. The live journal blog hosts translations of some of the posts from Plastic Tree Channel, but other than the few posts that are archived on that blog, I did not find any other posts from said website, which leads me to think that they are probably lost media. And that would be it for this video. As I said in the intro, I hope you found my selection of entries interesting. I had fun doing the research for this video. Of course, I knew Plastic Tree for a long time now, but somehow I never really looked into their lore or anything like that. So when I did so for this video, I was just amazed at how cool the Plastic Tree guys are. Once again, thank you to my patrons: Mumble Honey, Remilia, Big Body Igor, Canary Casey, The Insomniac Slayer, Dali, Lemon Piglet, and Soup. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye. Let me know what you think of my new microphone.